So, hey, welcome to Scenario Archives, episode 3, Illuminating Rounds, something like that, in that order, roughly.
Okay.
With me is Martin.
Hello, Dave.
Hey, how you doing? So today we're going to talk about top 5 scenarios.
Yes.
It feels like we just had that conversation, but we won't tell the guys that we've just tried to record this and forgot the sound. So I'll act surprised.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That's a good idea.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about some new gadgets that arrived in the post this week. So the first one that I got was my tweezers with a torch. So this is very useful for.
We're not sure.
Playing in the dark, yeah. But it's we kind of thought it was.
There are times at tournaments and things you can be in a darkish room.
Yep.
I think with poor lighting or whatever.
That's right. And we've seen players bring their own lamps along.
So now they can bring a little.
They can.
As long as they don't need the strategic view.
I've seen players with wives. I've seen players with lamps. I've seen players with those things.
Why does that remind you of a wife?
That doesn't remind me of a wife. I was talking about accessories.
Right. I see.
Accessories in general.
Right. Okay. A wife accessory.
Yeah. It's the must-have.
Yeah.
Nerdy.
But we got some new ones, and you had an idea for it, like perhaps after a few months.
I thought after maybe a year of playing, if we looked at our record over the last year, and bearing in mind you're already 2-0 up, thanks to my dismal show in the last 2 scenarios, we could engrave, and depending on how many games you have ahead of me, you can have the rights to have a 9-1 or a 9-2, and I get the 6+1, 7-0, something like that. So we can have a crack at that.
That sounds like fun. We can then if the next year it's reversed, we could just swap.
Yeah,
we could just swap that.
Or engrave something else.
Or engrave something else.
We'll end up with tattoos. This is how this is going to go. So I also got the corner cutter counter clipper cornerer. This is the least impressive gadget that my family have been underwhelmed by, and they're underwhelmed by much of my ASL collection. But it clips corners one at a time.
Yeah.
One counter at a time, fairly slow, but fairly accurately.
Yeah.
So
I've got to say, I was very impressed with the counter that you showed me.
Not my style.
Not particularly.
Just the counter.
So you had to tidy it up because they were on. It was an old counter with the little bits on the edge.
So the spurs on the edge.
Yeah.
Are they called spurs? I guess
that's what we're going to call them now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So if they're on the edge rather than in the corners, then it's a little bit trickier to get a good cut because of the way that the counter sits in the.
What I liked about this, because this is the 2mm one, yeah.
Yes.
Is that right? And there's a 5mm one.
2.5 and a 3.
There's 2.5, 3. Yep. I thought 2 was just discreet. You could only just tell that they've been cut. They kind of look smart, but they don't look. Yeah. Yeah, they don't look too much. Because I'm not a counter clipper.
No, not.
But I thought that looked good.
Much to my disgust. We have to play on your wobbly counters.
Yes.
Hairy corners.
Yeah.
But, okay. So they're the two things. This one was a bit tricky. I had to pay for this 3 times. Once was for the actual thing, which was about £20. Once was the postage, which was about £20, and I had to pay VAT on top of that for the UK.
Work tax, quite expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
£20 doesn't sound too bad, does it? But with all those other bits,
it's maybe reluctant to go and get the bigger ones for perhaps the bigger counts. So it's one of those things. But anyway, the Oregon corner counter clipper is.
So that's in the US.
That is, yes.
So if you're in the US, you might be able to avoid some of those costs.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be fairly cheap, I think.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about top 5 scenarios. We had any kind of remit really.
There was just that top 5, wasn't it? Whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So in a particular order, but perhaps least favourite to best favourite. We can flip through those and just tell me about your scenarios.
Okay. So number 5 is the first campaign game date from the campaign game Purple Heart Draw, which is produced by Lone Canuck, and it's a really, really good campaign game. And actually, I think it's probably not a bad campaign game for somebody who's relatively new to campaign games, because it's not vast. It's big enough, but it's not vast. And what I really enjoyed about it, I was playing a chap called Ian Willey, who would be well known on the British scene, lives in Nottingham, and he was coming on as the Americans. And there was a lot of armour in his force. I had quite a lot of sort of fortifications and hips. I had some anti-tank mines. I had a lot of hip units, and I set up a little trap in a mud road going through an orchard, and I had anti-tank mines on both sides of the road and in the road. I also had hit squads with their Panzerfaust, but also Panzerschrecks, just waiting for him. I thought the only thing now is, if he doesn't come down that road, what am I going to do? But he did come down the road, and he came right the way down the road, confidently. As he approached the minefield, which of course he doesn't know is there, he started slowing down, looked more thoughtful, and eventually stopped right in the middle of it before he actually kind of...
Did he have your hit notes in front of him, or there was nothing?
I'm sure there was something dodgy going on there. But even worse, it stopped there. It stopped in the one sort of safe hex, and then when it was my final fire phase, I started firing Panzerfaust at him. I think I had like a sort of 11. I think we had like 11 shots. Every single one of them missed, or they hit and they were duds or whatever. And it was just literally ludicrous that this elaborate plan, and I couldn't even kill one of his armored AFVs. But we went on. We finished the campaign. It was the whole game was very enjoyable. The whole of that campaign game date. It was just a lot of fun.
Right, brilliant. And you were telling me it reminded you of a story back in...
It reminds me of my grandfather, because this idea of being sort of rolling into the middle of a minefield and not knowing it's there. My grandfather was in the Second World War, and he bumped into his cousin, my great uncle Leggy.
On the same side, I hope.
They were on the same side.
Okay.
They were on the same side. Yeah, they were in Belgium, and they went for a drink because they were big drinkers. Yeah. And the last thing my grandfather remembered was coming out of the pub, and then he was no memory until the morning. But he woke up in the middle of a field with people sort of shouting at him not to move, and he had stumbled and walked into the middle of a minefield in his drunkenness, fallen asleep in a heap right in the middle of it.
And he lives to tell the tale.
Lived to tell the tale.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's the kind of war story you want to perhaps bring out, isn't it?
Purple Heart Draw made me think of my grandfather.
That's very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay. My number 5 was The Liberators. So Liberators is a heavy metal scenario. You and I played it 8.5 turns, 16 or so squads on either side, 17 tanks on each side, heavy metal. It's a scenario where you really feel the dice are heavy. You roll them and there are big shots everywhere. There are, it's Panzer IVs going against IS2s and all sorts of craziness. Just really heavy metal ASL at its best. 8.5 turns of just mayhem. Tigers involved in there as well. I think there's even the ISU 122s and the 150s, just the massive big Russian tanks. 1945 at its finest for a big heavy metal.
Yeah.
So,
I remember that scenario. That was way back in the relatively early days.
And that's when we just would play anything. We've got the day. Let's just play until we stop.
And it never occurred to us that sometimes we were picking stars that were too big for our experience level and things like that. But it was all fun, wasn't it?
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
So it brings me to number 4.
Yep.
Number 4 is I played Diger Kadai. Schwerpunkt 80. This is a brilliant scenario.
Yep.
So it was only about the 8th or 9th scenario that I played. It was really, really struggling to get my head around, brush being bamboo and things like that. I hadn't really got my head around brush being brush yet. And it was the first time, and I think I was the British, and it's a little bit quality v quantity, I suppose, because actually the British are Gurkhas. They're very, very good they've got good morale. They're good in close combat, aren't they? They had good equipment. They had a heavy machine gun. I think there's a -2 leader and things like that. So they got to hang on to the little village, and the Japanese just seem to swarm them from all directions. And I think you were the Japanese. It seemed to me handled them, very, very expertly at the time. I'm sure now with experience I'd see your faults, but it was just very, very exciting, and just getting your head around the fact that a second line Japanese half squad getting into close combat with Gurkhas and 9-2 leaders can wipe them all out.
That was
just amazing.
The times where I could tell you the rules and you believe me, and so I could probably do all sorts of tricks that you had never seen before and will never see again. But yeah,
most likely. But it was just very exciting. Real melee, wild swirling melee of stuff going on.
That's a great scenario from Stirrup. They did 3 in that scenario, that sort of series.
I've forgotten that.
So we'll have to dig them out again. I think because they were all excellent scenarios, but they've all got a kind of similar sort of titles. We'll find out.
Burn Gurkha Burn.
That's the one that I was a little bit, because I think we even had a conversation at the time about, is it worse to burn them or just say dire? Because it's pretty much, it just felt a little bit gratuitous. But
it feels a little bit. I'm not sure I'd have named a scenario that, but yeah.
And it goes into the scenarios of when you and I play. I'm going to say, which is when we're playing, and we played that scenario under murderous fire. Do you remember where you were under murderous fire and you felt it the whole way through the scenario? And it's those scenarios where more misery awaits, or whatever the scenario might be called. One side of you is not going to have a great time. One side of the players is going to have a tough time. But
absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay, number
four. Yeah, for me. So in the very same general article or general issue that the Liberators was in, general number 31.1, Awakening of Spring. So very similar in style scenario, a little bit longer in turns, 10 turns, 16 squads. Awakening of Spring has 10 tanks against 6 tanks, all kinds of craziness going on. And I remember this scenario because you and I played it, and I was probably losing at the time. I had to get a tank off the board, and you swung around and we're going to take a shot at the rear of the tank. And so I did like any other hopeless player did at the time. He just kind of looked at his dice and rolled and
hope for the best.
Exactly. Swung the turret to hex mines, rolled the snake eyes.
In motion.
Yeah, in motion, of course. Yeah. I wasn't going to do it by halves. I mean, at that point, what do you get to lose? Rolled the snake eyes. I think subsequent one probably as well to hit it. Yeah. Probably he rolled low enough to kill your tank, and then decided that was the best scenario I'd ever played at the time. But it just goes down to what a great episode of the issue of the General. Back in the
such
day.
Really good scenario.
Yeah, when you just got that in the next 3 months to play for ASL, and that was your couple of scenarios. Incredible. So yeah, that's a great scenario. And if you don't have General 31.1, pick that up for those 2 scenarios. Because,
yes, pick it up. Yeah. So number 3 for me is Desperate Bridgehead. Now this scenario hasn't yet been published. Now it's going to be published by Bounding Fire. I think it's all right for me to talk about this because it's been aired publicly at the tournament that finished last week in Blackpool. I couldn't go to that tournament, but good friends with Martin Mayers, one of the tournament organisers, the other one being Simon Staniforth. And I played some of the scenarios with him. I played Desperate Bridgehead, and very kindly Bounding Fire offered these pre-publication scenarios for the tournament to use. And it's quite a big scenario for a tournament scenario, but it's just what a whirlwind of chaotic, frenetic fighting. There's a lot of armour on both sides. The Germans are defending. They've got a little bit of depth to their sort of defence. And there were little puffs of smoke all over the battlefield. Really lethal environment for tanks. A little bit easier for infantry, but even then, some sort of desperate fighting. It's really, really exciting. Key thing that I remember from that one was I had an 81mm gun quite far back on the battlefield. It was hit. Martin brought his sort of heavy machine guns and his mortars and things up onto a hill in a wood. To sort of blast their way through on that flank, and I thought that's brilliant. That's a perfect target for the 81mm mortar. Get a bit of rate of fire on that, and they'll be that position will be completely destroyed. And of course, it was line of sight was blocked.
Right.
Of course, and of course I rolled double 6. And because we were playing on Vassal, we didn't play again for another week. I kind of forgot what we were doing, and so we started the game again. I rolled to repair the mortar. The mortar came back. It was my prep fire phase. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to fire at that infantry over there on the hill. And I took the same shot. And I rolled a double 6 again. No. So amazing. Yeah. But it's worth me saying, I kind of wanted to say this really, that Martin Mayer, Simon Stanford, I just got a little bit of a sense of just what a huge amount of work it was to put that tournament on. And indeed, they started it the year before. Yeah. And those two, but also all the other people that organise these major events. It's a lot of work, and they deserve a lot of gratitude.
Absolutely. And you and I can't make those for most of the time that which is a shame.
Yes.
But I definitely want to get back to the time.
I'm going to be getting back to them. 3 years and I'm semi-retired. I'm going to get back to all of them. Yeah.
And they happen around the world, and people do put a huge amount of effort. I don't want to say
there's one in Finland this week.
Scandinavia. I don't know. I think Finland counts as Scandinavia. Yeah. It might be Sweden. I don't know where it is. But there's so much work that goes in. And I like to think that I've always thanked the guys for organising it, but I can imagine that not that people don't thank them, but they don't think of how much work goes in behind all those scenarios, those tournaments. So
there's an awful lot of work goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to all those guys, we'll raise our waters to you and say cheers. Yeah.
So are we on to your number 3?
We are. Yeah. Okay. So my number 3, talking of big tournaments, was at Aslock. So I was there in, I think it was 2011, 2012, something like that. And my first game I had to play there, I'd jet lagged, I'd arrived was against Steve Cleaver, who is just a god of a player. He's incredible, and he wiped the floor with me. And let's take nothing away from him. It was a great scenario, and I had a good time. My second scenario was J.R. Tracy, and we played Fiery Finale from Schwerpunkt, number 202. And this scenario, we picked it, and Steve kind of looked over, and Steve has a great eye for a scenario, and had already declared that the Germans needed an extra squad. But we were fairly new to the pack and hadn't really had a lot of play, so decided that we wouldn't give the balance to either player. So we rolled for sides, and I picked up the Germans. So already I was thinking I'm up against J.R. Tracy, a great player himself. I'm taking the unfavoured side in a tough scenario. What else could go wrong? So started off, and within the first turn, I think my 4 Tigers had taken out 2 or 3 of his tanks. They'd taken out a big kill stack. It was going great. Then his reinforcements came on. I took out another 2 of these tanks, and the kind of the balance had swung completely my way, which doesn't make it a great scenario in itself. Then suddenly, when all was lost, and I would have been at this point, just going out and getting the beers and just thanking my opponent for a game that I tried to give him. JR just sat there and thought for a couple of minutes, and then came up with this plan which involved running another squad to an anti-tank gun that he got a 57 LL, pushed it over a wall in a cemetery, so it had line of sight to my 2 rearmost Tigers. Took both Tigers out, but not only took them out, took one out and immobilised one. The crew bail out. Then he manages to capture my Tiger. He manages to take out the Tiger that's in front of him, which is from the immobilised Tiger. He then takes out one of my squads in close combat. He captures the Panzerschreck. He takes the Panzerschreck and kills my final Tiger. So from going from...
And that was the victory condition?
No. Well, no.
Right.
There was still more to do to lose this. Sorry. But so then it was something along the lines of having to keep a certain number of squads in good order and stuff like that. And I had 3 close combats right at the end of the game, which I wasn't favourite for any of them. But if I'd won any one of them, then I would have won the scenario. I lost all 3, didn't matter. It was a great game. JR did an amazing job of turning around a scenario that was impossible to win at that point. And was just good.
Yeah, it's funny when you play someone who's really, really good. There is that sense that by hook or by crook or by luck or whatever, you find yourself in a position where you're beating someone who you kind of think of as a really good player. And I've experienced this with several people, and they just kind of they just want to go quiet for a little while, and then they come up with some absolutely brilliant plan that you'd never. I mean, a plan that involves capturing abandoned Tigers and hoiking anti-tank guns over walls and things like that. It's just
incredible with an extra squad and everything.
It's using every rule and everything, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a brilliant scenario, more for the story than the
absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so you're number 2.
So number 2 for me is Darkest Day, which is in Valour of the Guards 10. And I played you, and I'm sure you probably remember it. It was quite some time ago now. It was just after Valour of the Guards came out. And it's quite a big scenario. The Russians are defending, and they got all sorts of things. Like they got those sort of fortified locations. I'm not quite sure they call them strongholds. Strongholds. They are strongholds. I think they're called strongholds. There's cellars. There's tunnels. There's all kinds of stuff sort of going on, and there's a lot of Russians. There's a lot of Russians. They got flamethrowers. They got Molotov cocktail launchers. All sorts of things. And you came on with this sort of massive force of tanks.
With swagger, or was it?
A little bit of swagger, yeah. You got assault engineers, all kinds of things, and absolutely outclasses the Russians. I remember those strongholds being just very, very strong. It took a long time to kind of erode those. I remember taking out a tank in the square with a Molotov cocktail launcher, and it's the only time I've ever done that. And again, it was fighting everywhere, fighting in the cellars, there's buildings catching fire, and it's just exciting, good quality ASL stuff.
This is the game that you thought you could have won with a flame?
Yeah, so I can't remember the situation, but you had clearly won, and I kind of had to do one of those moments where you sit quietly for a while and think something through. Okay. And I realised I had a hip squad or a half squad with a flamethrower waiting for you to, I don't know, go into the cellar or something like that. And I realised it could just reach some location where it could, in advancing fire, break your guys and force them to rout, and that seemed in my memory that would have made the difference.
Right.
It was a long shot. I had to CX, had to go a long way, probably fire it on the way.
Yep.
All sorts of things could go wrong with it.
Do you know something? I remember this game because I seem to remember thinking, why haven't you resigned? You should have resigned at this point. And I was feeling a bit like, there may have been a text coming back from home, so, what time are you going to get home? And then me saying, well, I don't know, saying, And then suddenly the last turn, I realised why you'd held on all this time. And brilliant, because I think it was exactly that, where I was like, oh my God, I had never seen this at all. I'd never seen what was going on.
It was a long shot, and it didn't work out, but it was a good game. And it's one of those games even if you haven't got a good chance on that last die roll, the fact that on the last die roll you could still win, I think makes it close enough for it to be a really good game.
Yeah. There's often times in there scenarios where you have this point where you think you can win, but actually you realise that the opposition can do all sorts of things to actually stop that. Yeah, okay, yeah, brilliant.
Kind of AJ Tracy...
J.R. Tracy.
J.R. Tracy, sorry. J.R. Tracy moment.
Yeah,
almost.
Exactly that.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, number 2.
Yeah, number 2. Okay, so my number 2 is Merzenhausen Zoo from Journal number 2, originally a Bound in Fire Productions from the Hell on Wheels pack. 20 squads each side, 12 tanks, 6 tanks on one side, Churchills against Tigers. It's a scenario that just looks like there are counters thrown all over the map. It's crazy. I think if people look over your shoulder and see what's going on, they take one look and think, you know what, it's a bit too much going on there. I'll look politely, walk away, because it's just everything. Loads and loads of toys. I think that's the thing everyone says about this scenario. Toys everywhere. Great scenario. We played it, had a really good time, I remember. So yeah, absolutely. That's my number 2.
Fantastic. So my number
one.
My number 1. Okay, so this is going right back. So this is Hedgehog PX, and it is ASL D. Okay, but it was originally a squad leader. It was an original squad leader box. And I played it as squad leader. It was the first game I played against a live human opponent. A guy called Ben I was at university with. It's a brilliant scenario. I think it's an excellent scenario. Really atmospheric. There's a mere 7 German squads. Defending a village surrounded by some sort of hills, and they're being attacked by 32 Russian squads.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
So half of them are conscripts, other half first line. Germans have weapons that fire a long way. They've got their heavy machine guns, so they can engage the Russians from the minute they come on the board. They've got OBA. All of the German forces hit at the start of the game. Well, of course, you've played it because we played it together. I think it's a really, really amazing scenario. Get a real sense of kind of the Russians get a really, really hard deal to start with, but as they close, their numbers start to count, and then it's a desperate sort of withdrawal for the Germans back to the sort of the stone building. And
I remember looking at the scenario card, thinking it was a misprint. I genuinely thought 7 against 32. That's just crazy. It doesn't work. And you're absolutely right. We don't see many scenarios like that, do we? Where there's such a disparaging number between the attackers and the defenders. Often it's just a ratio, like a 1.5 ratio or so. But this was it opened my eyes to what ASL can do as a scenario, as a system, to show you that kind of different size and style of the game.
No, it was brilliant stuff. And of course, and Ben, I had a brilliant game with him. He was very, very skillful. I mean, didn't have much experience of playing either, but he was very, very skillful, and I learned a lot playing him. And I sort of stayed a little bit in contact with him, but he took his own life about sort of 10, 15 years ago or something like that. So, but I've played the game now about 5 or 6 times because I enjoy it so much. If I get in like a new opponent, something like, do you fancy playing this?
Yep.
Really, really great scenario.
And I think that was the first game you beat me in, and I think it was your scenario.
So many good memories.
Yeah, no, it was really, really good. Really enjoyed that. So my number 1, interestingly, was my first ever scenario as well. So I met a guy called Dave Otway through the ASL mailing list. He said to me, just pop round, come round and have a game. So I told this story to the half squads who I interviewed this week. So that was great. I'm on their podcast at some point, and the scenario is just set up for everything to go on. So Dave said to me, "Come around. Don't worry if you've only read chapter A, chapter B, whatever. I mean, I think I might have got through half of chapter K, but that was about it." And so I turned up. I was the British. Suddenly, I'm having flamethrowing tanks and I'm fighting 88s. And it really is like the immovable objects, the Pack 88s against the irresistible force of the Churchills. Brilliant scenario. Everything going on: OBA, buildings fights, street fighting, 88s, flamethrowers. We played it and had a great time. A lot of people now say that the British now are a little bit favoured, it's perhaps pro-British. So it would be good to revisit that with our older ASL glasses on, as it were. So that's my number 1. And interesting, it's both our first scenarios.
That's
that
true.
we've come across. So I wonder if people had bad first scenarios, they just don't get here. They're not here to tell the tale. They've just given up the game. And
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Thanks.
Yeah.
So for today's game, I'm going to talk to the guys separately about what the plan is. So what we'll do now is switch over to that, and then we'll come back and we'll explain to Martin what's going on. So today's game is all about balance, or at least the perception of balance. I'm going to be taking the Germans in a scenario that they've never lost in, over 20 recorded plays. And I'm going to tell Martin that the British are actually undefeated. I'm going to tell him that I've got a defence that's set up and that's ready to be tested, and I've spent a couple of days trying to prepare this setup. In truth, I'm going to spend 15-20 minutes, no longer than that, and just going to play as if it was a standard tournament scenario. What I want to see is whether Martin spots that it's actually unwinnable as the British, whether he plays to the best of his ability because he thinks that actually he doesn't want to lose, he doesn't want to be the first person to lose, and whether he plays knowing that there's a possibility of winning. I often think that when we play scenarios where we feel like we have no chance, even when it's just a 5 or 10% swing in balance, we actually are a little bit self-defeated and we play a little bit less to our ability. So that's what I'm looking for. Finally, there's an extra half-turn balance that I can give to the British at the end of the game. So if it's close to Martin winning, I'm quite happy to give him that extra half-turn. I'd love to see the British get a win in this game. If anyone's guys can do it, Martin's can. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, cool.
So Martin, okay, so I have picked this scenario based on balance.
Yeah.
So I picked the most unbalanced scenario I could find, and I thought I would give you the heavily favoured side, and I would study and prepare a setup for it to try and get the first win.
Yeah.
So this scenario is To the Matterborn. It's from Operation Veritable. It's the Germans against the Canadians, actually, and I'm going to be trying to win for the first time as the Germans. So it's up to you to set up. You haven't looked at this. You haven't.
I haven't looked at this. I had no idea
preparation.
until I got here what we were playing.
That's right. And so that's it's kind of unfair on you in a way because we're trying to put all the balance on my side as much as we can.
But it's a good way of perhaps getting you a win in a game which should be my win.
Right.
So you look really good when you get it.
That's absolutely true. If that happens, but as I've said, it's not a fair fight. You know, we're not in a tournament situation. We've both got the same amount of time to look at this.
Yeah.
So I've done my setup.
Cool.
It's down to you to do a quick setup.
Okay.
And and so we'll come back with your setup, and then we'll talk about other bits and pieces, and we'll go from there. All right. Cool.
Thanks very much.
So here's my setup for the scenario. 6 second-line German squads protecting the hill initially, where the British will be entering. So 9 Kangaroos, 12 first-line squads. Up against the second-line German squads here. The British have to clear this area of good order German units and then capture 4 level 4 hexes, whilst the Germans will be reinforcing with some 548s, 5 squads coming on in turn 3. So the mud's going to slow the British down, and also hopefully this unit here. Now, obviously the victory conditions are very difficult, so this is the key to the scenario. Not only are there got to be no good order units here, which means obviously you've got to be very careful with the routed units, things like making sure that nothing sneaks past, but also there's a slim possibility that the reinforcing Germans here might be able to bypass the level 4 heel hexes completely and just try and push on to the hex row U for a kind of cheap win if they're able to do so. The British do get the Germans get the last turn, which again is another advantage. Although if we give the balance to the British, then the British will get the last turn. The squads will set up in foxholes rather than on them. That's just there for visibility. And the large set here is 2 447s and 2 light machine guns with the 8-1 leader. The 6+1 is just a little roadblock here, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, that's it. Let's see what Martin does.
Right then, so I've set up ready for the beginning of this scenario. If I just quickly explain the situation, the German initial force, which is only 6 squads, quite a weak force, setting up on here on this hill. The British coming on between W10 and AA1. They've got to come in these vehicles, the Kangaroos, so they're safe from. The sort of 12 British squads are safe from small arms fire, but of course they're not safe from the Panzerfaust. This is 1945, so Panzerfaust are really sort of lethal. So that's my biggest concern coming on, really, is these Panzerfaust. So I've got to clear the Germans off anywhere sort of west of this line here, U or V, I can't remember which one it is. But I've also got to be in control of 4 of these level 4 hexes at the end of the game. So, and there's a German force here, much more powerful looking force really, 548s, and they're coming on turn 3 on this east edge, and they're obviously going to contest control of these hexes here. So plan is at the moment that we're looking for places where the Germans haven't got a line of sight. They haven't got a line of sight to this hex, this hex, this hex. We're going to be bringing on a force here. We'll be dropping the guys off, and we're going to be turning the vehicles around. They're automatically recalled when they're emptied, so we're going to be building some units up in here. What we want really to be able to do is be out of line of sight of this big group here. Now my suspicion is that that's 2 squads, 2 light machine guns and a -1 leader, and it's in a building, wooden building, I think. So that's a lot of firepower. We'll be very, very careful of that. These things are much more likely to be squads, half squads, hoping to get some good Panzerfaust shots. So the idea is stay out of line of sight. Now, they haven't got great lines of sight from here. There's the plateau effect of the hill here, which means that this group here can't see down here, nor can they see past these trees. So the idea will be to come on out of line of sight of this unit, try and take out on the perimeter units, and eventually perhaps close in on this. Some of the force, a small portion of force here, they're going to head off straight up onto the hill and try digging in. Now all movement in these vehicles is going to be a little bit awkward because it's mud and there's a secret dice roll and there's +1 in mud, so in fact every time these vehicles move on a 10 or more they risk bogging. And there's a +1 to attempt to entrench. So if I get up onto the hill, it might be quite difficult to sort of dig foxholes and things, but that's the sort of plan. Also, the group that's going up onto the hill, if they get up there in time, quite well armed with the heavy weapons. The heavy weapons are a medium machine gun and a mortar. Very good for defending the hill, but might also be good, perhaps 5 positions over here, might be good for perhaps helping to finish off the defence of the force in the west. So that's the basic plan at the moment. This force is going up onto the hill. This force here is building up a fire group here, trying to take care of this foxhole. These are coming in, dropping the infantry, and with an attempt to try and tackle this unit, this position from there. So we'll see what happens.
Right. So before we start, I thought we'd have a chat about balance.
Okay.
So today's scenario really is all about discussions about balance. So I kind of wanted to ask you, and we have a little exploration about what we think. But how much does balance matter to you? What does it mean to you in a scenario?
There's certainly cases when I don't think it matters. I think, for example, Ham and Jam from Pegasus Bridge, the landing scenario, and there it's obviously quite a lot of efforts being done to make it kind of sort of historic. I don't think that's a very well balanced scenario, but I think it's a great scenario, and I think that's absolutely perfect. Right. That's absolutely fine. Other times, I suppose, if you're in a tournament or something like that, then balance matters because people want to do well and they want to get on. If you're having a friendly game, as perhaps when we play, me and you play, I don't think it's desperately important, but you don't want something that there isn't something to work for. It's got to feel like you can win. It's got to feel. I don't mind that it would be, 8-3 to one side. But I kind of like to feel as though both sides can win. There's a reasonable challenge. So
where's the cut-off? Is it 10-1? Well, that's there's always a 1, and there's that line from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, you see, I think 10-1 can easily be, a very new player and versus very experienced player. There's all sorts of possible explanations for that one game. I think 10-1 sounds pretty unbalanced. Right. So my gut feeling would be there's probably something else I could play that's going to be a bit more promising. Yeah.
And in terms of if you were in a tournament scenario, then where would you? Let's assume 50 plays is a fair. And 50 is probably quite high.
50 is high, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe 20 plays. What would be your kind of cut off in terms of percentage? What would you see as? You're looking for a 60-40 at maximum, or where are you starting to think?
Never thought about this. Never thought about it. I mean, I suppose 60-40 sounds. What would that be in 20? It would be 12-8.
Quite close, sounds, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think I'd be happy to look at that. I mean, I think tournament directors play these scenarios, don't they, and see what their feeling is about them. But I guess 60-40 seems a good number.
It's always struck me as difficult because the fact that scenarios age, tricks come out and tactics come out and things like this. And the other thing is that sometimes new players pick a particular side. So often the Japanese will be played by a more experienced player.
Yes,
so I'd imagine the Japanese win most of their scenarios to start with and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting because I think a lot of the time we ignore scenarios because of the balance. And you and I are, I think, a good advocate for anything. As we play this for fun. We don't play this for bragging rights in any stretch other than just the fact that
we play it for the chicks, don't we?
Well, the women, the money,
attention from the chicks, and
exactly,
the money,
exactly. So so it's interesting. So today's scenario obviously being very unbalanced. My question to you is, you've only had a brief look at it. Do you take this as would you look at this and assume that it was wildly imbalanced, or is this something that you would look at and think?
So when I first started looking at this, I thought this looks quite difficult for the British. Okay. It's supposed to be the British that it favours. As I've looked at it, I can kind of see how the British can win, but I'm just really bad at kind of like getting scenarios right from just looking at them. I don't know. As this starts to play out, I'll start to get an idea. I honestly, I'm hopeless. Yeah,
but in a way. That, not naivety is the wrong word, but that kind of lack of care for balance is a little bit liberating, because it means that you kind of just open it up to, well, okay, let's look at this, and it looks tough. And I agree with you. I think I spoke to Cameron to start with and said the reason this is a great scenario is because it does look tough, and then you can see actually there's some easy ways that you can kind of get some progress and things like that. And potentially for both sides. I mean, there's that as well. So I'm intrigued.
So what's your feeling? Balance matters?
No, I don't. I'm not. Yeah. But I like the excuse of being able to lose to say, well, actually, I'm that scenario, and I get to say, hey, look, it was great to win in this very difficult situation. Yeah. I think it's a nice ready-made excuse, and I think that's fine. I think we put a lot of time into games sometimes. And if a scenario is 52, 50, 48, well, hey, I got the unfavoured side. What can I do? So I don't mind that. I would much rather people complain about the balance than dice or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know we have a bit of banter about your dice. In fact, reminded me of a story. So this is a story that J.R. Tracy talks about. I came across his post a little while ago.
Yes.
And he talks about the guy that had the duck dice. I don't know if you've heard this story.
No, I've not
so
heard that.
Very much like your battle school dice, they have the number, and it's got the duck on it, and it represents the one.
I see. Yeah.
So you roll. And this guy, Aslock, just amazing luck for the first game, destroyed everything in front of him. Second game did really, really well. Third game realised that the duck was a 6 and not a 1. so he was playing with two ones, and it took him 3 games to realise, which is it's great. And the story goes that he went up and bought beers for the rest of the weekend. But that's kind of how I would like to think we.
I think one of the reasons people moan about dice, but I think is actually a strength of the game, and people shouldn't moan, is because the dice in this game throw up crazy results, don't they? And that makes the game tense, and it makes the game exciting. And every now and again, it probably makes you not lose a game that you thought you were going to win. And when that happens, I think just accept it's all part of the excitement. It's all part. It's just the ride.
Absolutely, exactly that. You've got to take the good and the bad.
You say a little bit of banter. You wrote a program, Dave. You're so convinced that my dice were lower than yours. You wrote a little program on the ASL Scenario Archive, which is still there, I think, where you can analyse the dice.
And I am number 1 on the top bad rollers. If you look at that, and what happened was Vassal changed they now put graphics instead of numbers.
Yes, that's right.
And so you can't, because what we used to do was copy the log.
Yes, of course.
And we placed it, because we used to talk about the fact that did you have more double ones and something the other.
And actually the analysis showed I didn't. Yeah.
to your memory. No, absolutely.
So you can't do that now.
No, you can't because I think it was. I don't know if it was a user interface thing or whether it was a little bit of a. I don't know.
They didn't want us checking that.
Yeah, maybe they're worried about our checking of their numbers. But it wasn't like that. And I think in a way, I don't know if you phone home and sort of explain how you did in a scenario, but sometimes it's easier to just say, I got bad dice or whatever, and that kind of shuts down the story, doesn't it? Nobody hears it. Nobody wants to hear about bad ASL stories, and bad luck stories.
I'm not sure if people want to hear ASL stories at all, apart from ASL people.
even those struggle with hearing those sorts of. Okay, all right. So we're going to go on to the game. You're going to talk about your setup for the attacking Canadians. I think we've mentioned the SSRs, so no stream. The wood road hexes don't exist.
That's right. There's mud.
There is mud.
So there's secret dice rolls for all the moves.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's about it. We've got the reinforcements have a little bit of higher ELR. I guess we'll ask you this time. How do you think it's going, Martin?
It hasn't gone as well as I hoped.
Okay.
I suppose key things are, I don't know if the camera can see the map board.
Oh, it's overlaid at the moment on a photo, probably.
Okay. Is that I lost one vehicle to a Panzerfaust. I suppose it was always likely.
In X9, was it? In X9, I think. X9.
Yeah, it was this hex here. You can see the thing there. So I lost a squad and a half and a pit quite cheaply. I did think I had the guys that were in this foxhole, which is this squad here, pretty well pinned in place. I've had a good chance of breaking them, but they survived.
They survived a 2 check and a 6 flat.
That's right. Yeah,
got lucky there.
So they've escaped. Guys here, they've escaped, and some of the Germans have started to try and. Well, it's not a stream, is it? Because it's not there, but they're beginning to cross over to try and rejoin this hill.
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to do that, but actually, I think it's the right thing to do.
I feel like if I can get at least one or 2 units back across here, just to help with the defence. You've potentially only got 2 squads. I don't know what you've got coming back up this way. No bogs yet, so
no bogs. We had one possible bog, didn't we?
We did, yep.
Luckily, with the mud, I couldn't move far enough.
It's slow enough, yeah, exactly. The kangaroos are treated quite nicely, aren't they? They're treated very strictly. Just drop off your passengers and go. We're playing with the errata of the 3 half squads or 3 squads worth.
For you to load everything into them. I just think it's slightly odd because the vehicles are not that good for moving great distances because of the mud. But if they're just dropping infantry off into the battle, they're literally coming in, dropping them, turning around and going back.
But that's what they were there. That's apparently they were just modified tanks that just get the guys in, don't hang around. Because I think there are certainly many ASL players that will use us for all sorts of good things, won't they?
Yes.
Grabbing buildings, cutting off route
paths.
No jumping crews out, nothing like that. This is all as historical as we can get for these tanks. Okay, all right. So 50-50 at the moment, or do you think?
So.
Yes. I think you're right. You lost the squad in a bit, but I don't see how any Canadian player is going to lose potentially less than that in the first turn. I think there's always going to be a chance.
There's always a chance of losing that. And what was the to hit on that?
It was low. No, it was low. It was 3s, and I rolled snake eyes. So it was. I got lucky. It's my turn to be lucky today, definitely. But you've got your guys. They're creeping up the hill already. Roll on to
positions. Okay then, Dave. So go on. How do you think it's been going?
I think it is fairly tight. I think it's tight. I think you definitely haven't made as much progress as you perhaps would have liked. However, you've got a decent sized stack now coming up into P7? Is that these guys here? That look to be trying to secure the hill. I've got one set of guys coming back just to try and give you a little bit of a fighting spirit. You bogged a tank here, but I don't think there's any downside to that at all. You're going to be able to get your guys out. We had an interesting little melee here with the 6+1 leader. And you didn't get to kill him on the first chance, and you were still CX. And now I pushed a squad in to try and swing the favour back to me. Still locked in melee there. Nothing's gone on.
I think that probably suits me a bit now because I can reinforce that and win it, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
It just leaves that very good position over there. It's a really difficult position to take.
It is, but it does feel like it's going to fall. You've got enough guys around there. It feels like it's going to start to crumble a little bit. We've got one squad's gone down to a conscript in there.
Yes.
And we've got the broken leader as well. The 7-0 leader broke to a shot. So it's it doesn't feel wildly.
No,
it doesn't feel wildly crazy one way or the other. It feels like you'll take this without a problem, and it feels like maybe the battle will be really.
May well be
these guys here. And And if let's say for example there are 3 squads a leader, I don't know what have you got there, a medium have you got a medium machine gun?
Medium and a mortar.
Okay, so let's assume.
There's only one vehicle, so the most it can be is a squad and a half.
Okay, right, and you've got.
There's another vehicle bogged behind, which has obviously got something inside as well.
Right. So, this is wasn't there 2? This is 2 vehicles worth of.
No, that one, the bugged one, didn't have movement points to unload, so that's still loaded.
Right, but the stack that's here.
This just came out of one vehicle.
Oh, really? That's just one vehicle. Oh, they've been packing suitcases. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So right. So that's okay. So presumably there's only a maximum of 3 squads.
Yeah.
Up here.
Yeah.
And they're going to be facing 5 548s plus potentially a squad here as well. Now you did your maths and think you think you've done your maths and that's a squad.
That's a squad. Yeah.
All right. So
put money on that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I won't dispute you on that one. So that's maybe where it's going to be a challenge for the British because you're holding
going to be outnumbered up there. Yeah. So really, one of the key sort of strategic decisions is at the beginning is to what extent do you split your force.
Right.
And there might be a case for not splitting your force and doing this job really quickly and running over.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that feels
I don't think you can do it. I think it's so slow. We saw my guys struggling to get up this hill with the mud. That I don't think you've got enough time to, you assume it's going to take 3 turns to clear that area.
Which makes me feel I haven't got enough up there.
You're right, it does feel like you've a little bit overcommitted to this side. But at the same time, you'll roll this up with relative ease, won't you, as opposed to... and then it's a case of... But you'll be defending, in theory, you'll be defending a...
Yeah. But you get the last turn.
That's right. Now, interestingly, the balance is... that you get an extra half turn. I've said on camera that if it's looking close, I'd happily give you the balance of this one just to see what happens if we feel it needs it or whatever. But I think it's an interesting balance choice because it does swing it a lot. Because me at the last turn seems very unfair. It feels like maybe that's to get out for the Germans.
Feels a bit to me like I've got to have a fair force up there.
That's right. Yeah.
To repel you on that last turn.
Yeah, because I do get that last sneaky one, but we'll see. So, but I mean. To me, it's still 50-50. I don't know. Do you feel it's swinging one way?
I think it's beginning to swing away, but I don't think very dramatically yet.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'd agree. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So turn 3 for the British.
Yeah.
Turn end of turn 3 for the Germans.
Yes.
Playing very quickly now. It's playing
a bit quicker now. Yeah. It hasn't been a great turn for me.
Right.
I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Well, okay. So you positioned yourself to get into the big shot, didn't you, with the 1-2 leader, which is still going to be a good shot. And we were talking about the fact that you were kind of looking like you were going to take on this this kind of difficult position in X6, and you joked about the fact that it was that all this work to get us 6. Was it 6?
In the end, it was a 2 flat.
Two flat. Yeah,
it was a 2 flat. I mean, but I was hoping it'd be better than a 2 flat. Yep. Things kept failing to get into the hex.
Yep.
But it ended up as a 2 flat.
You rolled a 4.
Yeah.
I got a sniper.
So. You got a 1 round check.
I got a 1 round check on 4 units. They all passed.
They all passed it.
I got a sniper.
Killed one of the units which was going to advance in to make the next shot. The defensive shot better, but
very unlucky. On your point of view, very unlucky.
Yeah. I'm struggling all sorts of ways. I think.
Yeah, you're being stretched. You're definitely being stretched.
Nowhere is my force strong enough to do what it's got to do.
Right.
So it's not strong enough on the hill, really.
Yeah.
Although there's a significant force up there, it's not enough force up on the hill.
Yep.
This melee is 1-to-1.
Yeah, and it's now...
And it could easily go your way.
Yeah, I mean, you are favoured because I've got the 6+1 leader in there, so it's kind of...
Yeah. But it keeps dragging on. The longer it drags on, the longer these guys are not running over here, and it won't really be probably coming close to the time where they're not going to be able to get over there.
Yep.
I think the ideal is that this hill would have been captured by now, and these units would be over here somewhere on their way up to reinforce this group. This group is really struggling. There's broken units everywhere. So I mean, if all these came back, there's a -2 leader in there. They could. I could get a pretty good prep fire shot.
Yep.
But I can't.
It's a bit of a stalemate, isn't it? We've got you guys up in the hill in the building.
Yeah.
You're in the foxhill's down below. One good shot is going to flip that whole hill, I think.
Possibly. But it might not be the good shot. The one good shot I wanted. One good shot you wanted.
That's true. I found out that you don't like other nationalities' CX counters on
your
units?
No.
I don't know whether the combination of my low rolling or has just got you enough.
So I think it's just really, really stretched. You've got this very, very nice looking force coming on.
Yep.
How I can keep, because basically that turn 7, all you got to do is advance onto the hill, isn't it? And
it's 4 hexes. So for example, if you've got the back 4 hill hexes, then you might not. You might have a little bit more.
I mean there are only 3 units.
Right.
1, 2, 3 units at the moment. So that force isn't quite big enough to do what it needs to do. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, and I've started to pull guys back over here. Not sure if that's the right thing to do. Not sure how many guys I should leave back here to defend this.
I think you're fine. I mean, this is holding it up. This is holding it up.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
All right. Okay.
Right.
All right. So turn 4.
Yeah.
In turn 4, so we had a bit of a mad moment from the Germans. So what's gone on? So we had the battle of the buildings down here. You can highlight the hexes, but X6. So the squads that were in here, and they were fighting up against your 912.
Slowly growing in strength.
Yeah, that's right.
Stack, yeah.
And I figured that wasn't a fight. I just wanted to sit and trade shots with you. So I had the opportunity to run
molested.
Unmolested is as good as a word as any. Back in to try and reinforce this melee with 2 squads and an 8-1. So I did that. Got a squad and a leader into close combat. Left a squad with the machine gun outside the hex, guarding in case your larger stack come across. And I figured that would possibly swing the melee back into my favour, and then I'd have a nice holdout here for these guys.
And it just backfired, didn't it, with a bad roll? Well, a good roll.
A good roll. Well, I mean, nothing particularly special. I mean, you rolled less than a 5.
Yes.
So you took out a squad and a leader. No damage on your side. And so suddenly now this area now is looking.
I've got the advantage in the melee, but you got a unit just outside.
That's right.
But of course, this slot are freed up. I'm still struggling to see how I can influence this battle.
Right, exactly.
So even I can win this one, perhaps.
Yes.
Now.
Yep.
But I can't see how I'm going to win that one.
That's right. Yes. So now you've got 3 squads here up against.
Well, I haven't even got 3.
Okay. All right. So let's.
So that's a half squad.
Okay. All right. So you've got 2.5 squads against what we know is 5 squads and 2 leaders here, and they're good squads.
Yes.
And closing in as well are 2 additional squads, and potentially this guy here, but I don't think this guy's any real danger of getting into the battle. It's so slow going up this hill in the mud. It started to rain as well, which hasn't, but it did.
It's unlikely to make a big difference, isn't it?
We had gusts that turned the terrain blaze into a blaze there.
Absolutely.
So your personal morale seems to falter a little bit.
I think I'm tired. It's just tired from work, and all right. That's the big thing. I think really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not losing heart, or are you?
Well, it feels difficult to see how I can win.
Yeah.
That's if I'm honest. It feels, and I'm not sure if I can win, but
I've rolled exceptionally well on my morale checks.
You have.
I think I've passed on a lot of morale checks, and I feel like I've noticed that I've passed and I've rolled up.
And you have to roll really badly before you think it's. So you have to roll really well before you think it's not me that's rolling well.
I do. Yeah, I love to look at your dice and joke around about your dice. But you have not had good dice today. There's no question you've not had good dice. It's looking tough. It's looking tough for the British, I think, at this point. But having said that, had this melee gone my way,
it would be. I probably would be resigning now.
But you're now in with a shot, I think, over that end.
Over this end.
Yeah. Whether you can hold off on this side here, I don't know. But you've got decent. You've got the medium machine gun up here. You've got a mortar which won't be so useful, but it's not looking. It's not looking over yet, but and the game's playing very quickly. I think that's the other thing about this. If this was units with complex moves that were slowing down, but I mean it's taking 2 minutes a turn now, so we're kind of flying through this. So on to turn 5.
5, yeah.
Okay. So
I guess things have slightly improved for me, but it's still really hard to see how I can win. So this hill now, I won the close combat. Broke this unit, didn't
Snake Eyes, you got your leader out of that.
Yes, got my leader here. So that's this hill's one now.
3 Snake Eyes, isn't it? That's enough. I mean, I don't want to.
Oh,
It's just, just going to point out.
So quick.
Yeah.
So I guess I can run infantry along here and maybe do some flanking shots towards the hill, but that's the most I probably can achieve. And you've got this very strong force. I mean, I broke a half squad, didn't I? Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to be dominating this hill soon.
Yep.
I'm really going to struggle. You got that last turn, so I've got to somehow be in control of at least four hexes at the end of turn 7, and you not even get onto them, however briefly, because that's the thing. You only have to get on there and break. You still control it.
Right.
And you can advance on potentially and stuff like that. So I can't see how I'm going to win, but I'm happy to give it, especially as we're playing quite quick now.
It's flying through. I agree with you. I think it's mine to lose, but I'm not winning this at the moment. You know, I'm not. I don't have the 4. You know, arguably you're going to get those 4 hexes at some point. So you just need to push on a little bit more at some point to get those. That's the other thing. You've got 3 of them. Yeah. So you need to get that last 4th one to make sure of that. But yeah, very quick. So move on to turn 6 and let's see what it goes.
Okay. So I've conceded.
You have conceded.
At the end of turn 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a tough one for you.
Yeah.
A lot to do with potentially how we split up at the start.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So you won the first hill relatively straightforward.
Except that you sneakily ran a unit back, which I kind of wasn't observant enough to notice.
And it's a horrible way to potentially win intelligence.
So as this lot are going around this side, your guys that were well on their way to the hill turn back and they're here now. All they have to do next turn is advance into U6, which will fulfil your victory conditions. I've got a couple of units that might come along, but they can't stop you doing that.
Yeah.
So the win is very certain.
Yeah, and then potentially on the hill here.
So you're going to win there as well. So I've only got 2 unbroken units left. I've got a unit there. I've got a unit here. Now this is a
medium machine gun
with a medium machine gun. So it's a powerful little force there. But you know, you're behind me. You're all around me. You've got good morale, etc. This force could influence the battle because they could move. They could double time and get themselves up to here.
Yes.
Albeit taking some shots and advance to here. And if they survive that, they might be able to influence this last battle. But I can only be in control of like 2. I can only have 2 hexes occupied.
Yeah.
There's 7 hexes on there.
Yeah.
And I need 4. So all you got to do is advance into them. I think at that last.
Yeah. So if you were to look at this scenario and say, okay, you've never played this before, or you've played it just once, no knowledge of it.
So you introduced this scenario by saying how it was so unbalanced.
It is very unbalanced.
Yeah, in favour of the Germans.
No.
So I couldn't have planned it any worse. The battery runs out at this point, or the cameras fall, something goes wrong, we lose all the recording from this point. Martin and I decided we'll catch up over Skype. So here's the conversation that we had then, and I'll leave it to that. We're back again.
Oh, hiya, Dave. All right.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks very much for joining us again. So, as you know, the camera cut out right at the end. We did hear a beep going off. We weren't sure what that was, and it turned out that the memory stick had run out of space. So we had just literally finished the game, and the big reveal, that actually you were playing the unfavoured side and not the favoured side. So, talk me through. At what point did you realise, or had you realised?
Excellent question. I didn't realise at all. You completely had me hoodwinked. I actually played all the way through that scenario thinking, wow, this is supposed to really favour the Canadians, and I am really, really struggling. So that made it quite tough. In addition to that, I think because the dice weren't that friendly. I thought the dice weren't that friendly with me, and it was getting late, and I was tired, and I had to go to work the next day. And my morale was really, really kind of sagging. And I remember just at one point winning an important close combat with you, and my morale did come back. So it was definitely more to do with the game than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think I was a pretty good loser. And but I was definitely losing the will a little bit there. It's difficult, yeah.
You certainly played well, and I mean, the opposite side of that, from my viewpoint, I thought at a point I was struggling. I was thinking this is really awkward because I can't just lose the whole of this video, and you're going to be quite keen when you find out, when I tell you well, actually, this side has never won, and you've just won, and that video goes up. So
yeah, go on.
I was going to say to you, you're never going to look bad on this. I can't stress it enough. But I know that you wouldn't have believed me because you were thinking, you're just saying that if I win, actually. But about that scenario in terms of the balance. No, we did think it's completely unbalanced.
Yeah.
Easy to rebalance that scenario. Worth playing. What do you think?
There are two good questions there. Yeah. So the first thing is actually in terms of like you being worried, I think there was never really a real probability of you losing. If you losing that. I think there was just a moment where it half looked like it just might be possible in incredible circumstances, like you did bother to move all your troops in the right direction towards the hill or something like that. But yeah, it was never really going to happen. The big problem with the balance, one of the big problems, I think it's two big problems with the balance of that scenario. One of them is that the Canadians have to have these 4 hilltop hexes. The Germans get the last move. The Germans are most likely to have a more powerful force on the top of that hill, as far as I can tell. That's what seems to be the case, I think. All they've really got to do is get close to the hilltop, advance up on the final turn, and there's nothing left that the Canadians can do about it. So I think if you could, the balance is to extend the length of the game, isn't it? To give the British the final turn. I think it would make more sense to shorten the scenario, and essentially the Germans would lose a turn for trying to sort of recapture that hilltop, and I think that might help the balance.
Right.
And I was also thinking it's an interesting story because you've got these kangaroos, these sort of like things that the infantry can move around in, presumably quite quickly without being affected by small arms fire. But they can't move around quickly because the mud slows the tanks down so much. Because my first thought was to use those kangaroos to rush a force up onto the hilltop, and then of course they get recalled, but the infantry would be up there very, very quickly. And they're not. It just makes sense to get them out as quick as possible because those kangaroos go up the hill in the mud through woods slowly. So I think if you just simply took the mud out, I think that would actually help balance it towards the Canadians.
And is there any kind of possibility you think of using the machine guns on the kangaroos encircling the troops, or do you think with the Panzerfaust from the Germans it's just too risky?
I think it's too risky because there are only 2 firepower machine guns on those kangaroos. Yep. You've got to get close for a 4 firepower, and then you hit on an 8, aren't you? I suppose. Also, they are small, I suppose. So, but you have to have valuable infantry inside it, don't you? So yes. The problem is if one of those kangaroos goes up, then you're losing a squad, probably a squad and a half.
Yes.
So, no, I don't think it makes sense. No.
Okay. And so in terms of like the enjoy, because we probably wouldn't have ever played that scenario had we'd not been doing this kind of experiment, if you like. But it was a decent scenario to play, and so any thoughts about would you play it again, or would you recommend it?
I don't see any reason why somebody couldn't enjoy playing that scenario. It was an enjoyable scenario, and I think it would be good for them to know perhaps that it wasn't balanced and it wasn't going to give a fair, it wasn't going to be exactly a fair game. It still can be enjoyable depending on why you're playing. And obviously you wouldn't want it in a tournament. That would be crazy. There, some people are competitive. They want a nice balanced scenario so they can kind of challenge themselves against an equal opponent and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're not especially bothered perhaps about whether we win or lose as long as we enjoy the game. We both play to win, but at the end of the day when I go home, that's not what makes the difference to me. Right. And I think you're the same. Yeah. So I think if it's a fun scenario, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you.
It's a great scenario perhaps for someone who has taught someone how to play and they still haven't got their first win against the master, if you like, and now here's a good opportunity to try and beat me in this one, because if they took the Germans in it, it would be a fairly good chance to beat them for once. Finally, I'm just going to say thank you very much for being a good sport. I was really worried that you weren't going to enjoy the thingy. So I really appreciate that. And I guess until next week.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Your choice of scenario.
Okay, I'll give it some thought this weekend.
Okay. Unless any viewers wanted to suggest something that we should play, and we'll do that instead.
If the viewers suggested something, that'd be very happy to give that a try. But But failing that, I'll come up with something for next week.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, Martin, and thanks again for a good experiment, well executed. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.